Bloomtown. This is a tableau building game in which you're creating a town, as the title says. And it is a town where you want the houses next to the stores, next to the offices, and to the parks, so you can just walk everywhere. How very European, instead of having all the houses on one side of town and all of the businesses an hour away. Now, in this game, each player has a board such as this one. The boards are double-sided. The players can choose which side they want to use. What changes is the pattern of these symbols that you see here, and this is very important. The general idea of the game is super simple. You will have 2 tiles in your hand. During your turn, you will place a tile on the board. You will score it, taking victory points based on what the tile is worth at that point. And then, here's the very interesting idea. You see there are different stacks there of other tiles, and that is where the new tiles will come from. 5 tiles are available from the supply, and they are face up, so you can see what they are. And each is associated with a symbol, the same symbols that you find on your board. So when you put down a tile, the next tile that you gain is the one associated with the symbol that you just covered. How cool is that? So that you will want to cover things, of course, but also keeping an eye, all things being equal, to what that is going to get you next. Remember, you have 2 tiles in your hand, so there's a little bit of flexibility there, but knowing where you're going, having a plan to what to get next is really an important element of the game. And this is just the one twist, I'll say the one twist that in a sense is enough to give this game its personality, to make it feel different from other games. If you play, and the general idea is this: you put down a building, score, get another building, and the next player goes, and you continue like this until a number of stacks are emptied. The number depends on the number of players. At that point, you have one final scoring, and the game is over. Play with the most points wins the game. Now, a couple of other ideas. When you place a building, if you place it on one of these green areas, you also get immediately to use a bonus. You can double the points that you score by placing the tile in the position where you placed it, or you can take an additional turn immediately. Luckily enough, turns are so quick that is not going to cause any problems, not going to cause downtime. Each player also has a token that can be used once per game to score a building twice, or to take another turn immediately, or to trigger community scoring. What is that? Well, when you draw new tiles, it might be that you'll find, but not when you're looking for it to show it to the viewers. Of course not. Of course not. What the heck? It may happen that you find these clever, these very stealthy tiles that are hiding all in one darn pile. These tiles. When you reveal a new tile to fill a slot, if it is one of these tiles here, it is not resolved, it is replaced until you find one that is a building, and then all these tiles that you drew go in this area here. And for the time being, well, nothing happens. When there is only one of them there, nothing happens. When there are exactly 2 of a kind there, then you trigger what is called rescoring, which frankly is a little bit of a misnomer, because it does not necessarily mean that you score that kind of building again. Some buildings do score like they score originally again, and some other actually score differently when they are triggered by 2 tiles being there. They should have maybe called it special scoring. So when you play this tile, you select one of those and this tile for this effect, you select a community tile that has 1 and exactly 1 specimen there, not 2, not 0, and then you do the rescoring procedure. So this is a matter of timing when that whatever kind of building you have there gives you a lot of points. So what we really need now to know to really understand the game is the scoring, and luckily enough we have this and the player area, which is on the back of the rulebook. Offices. Office score per connecting office in that row or column. Remember, only the tile that you just placed scores, and only when you actually place it. So if I place this one here, then I score 1 point per office adjacent connected to it. Connected, that means adjacent or adjacent to an adjacent one in the column or row, plus 1 point for itself. So 1 point for that one and another one. Placing that one there gave me 2 victory points. Subways, similar. You score a point for the subway that you just placed, plus another point for each adjacent subway. So if I put this one here, it's 2 points. If I place this one here, it is 3 points. Each adjacent subway diagonally, the subway tiles score for diagonal adjacent. Parks, they score for each group 1, 2, or 3 that you have. If you have more than 3 in a single blob, that doesn't give an extra point. Parks, you score 1 point for the first one that you place in an area, 3 for the second one that is adjacent to another one, and then 4 for the third one there. Again, if you add more parks to it, doesn't matter, because parks, you want them large, but you also want them spread around town so that people can enjoy them more. Like so. Isn't that pretty? That for park. Homes, again, the European model. A home is valuable if it is surrounded by a lot of different things. In fact, for a home, you score 1 point for itself, plus 1 point per unique neighbor. In this case, for example, that home will score me 3 points. 1 for the home itself, 1 because it has a subway, and 1 because it has a park next to it. Homes can count as unique neighbors in that case. As you can see, you can have a maximum of 5 points there when you have a home and 4 different neighbors. And as for shops, this is kind of controversial in terms of production. Each shop allegedly has 2 colors indicated on the top. Sometimes it's easy to see, but still they're only coded by color, not by shape. And so for column-by people, I don't know how they can possibly play this part of the game. So this shop indicates green and yellow. Some a little cryptic to read. We are like, what? Well, believe it or not, this means red and purple. And red is the iconic color of homes, although those homes don't necessarily look very red, more like brick. And purple being the iconic color associated with offices, although many offices more like on the lilac side. It's not just that it's hard to read, it's not even exactly the same color on the tiles. These colors on the shops are just not very easy to read. Here's a pet store with a dog and a Pikachu, I guess. And I guess it means red and yellow, that homes and in subways. So basically for shops, you score 1 point for itself, plus 1 point per matching neighbor. That is for orthogonally adjacent neighbor that matches the symbols there. And now I'm sticking this one next to the camera, but trust me, when you're playing the game and maybe the light is not all that great, and you are the kind of gamer that has grown not just white but also blind in the service of your hobby, I've heard complaints about decrypting the symbols on top of the stores. This is for scoring. Rescoring again, it's called rescoring, but a lot of rescoring doesn't score the same as scoring. When you rescore, remember, either because the community tiles or because you use your special ability, rescoring means the houses, the offices are 2 points per tile, subways 2 points per tile, parks 2 points per tile, homes as in regular scoring, and shops as in regular scoring. So rescoring, call it special scoring. I don't know, it's up to you. But generally speaking, this is how you play Bloomtown. Bloomtown is a simple game, mind you, very simple, very linear, but at the same time it has some interesting ideas there that make it an interesting light game. What I like about this is how what you place and where you place game pieces is related to what you get next. This is really the linchpin, the concepts around which the entire design revolves, at least in my experience. And sometimes that's all you need. That's all that is necessary for a game to have a personality, to stand out from other games. Games where we place down tiles and we form patterns to score points. There are a dime a dozen these days, but this one has that idea that's more than enough to me, because it's fun to try to create a certain pattern while also first having a lot of agency in more than other games in which you get what you get and you don't get upset when you do what you're not supposed to. But here you get to decide what you do next, but that means, of course, that you want your current play not to be wasted just to get a certain tile. The interesting thing is that you are always scoring the past. There was a time where I put down a house and I was like, now I'm going to build a lot of stuff around it, I'm going to score it. Oh no, wait, I already scored it, which is a single, meager, sad point. Basically, since you only score what you place there based on what was there before, sometimes, well, you have the sense that you're building this nice complex of buildings with an empty spot so that you can then score it. The offices, the same thing, you need a lot of them. It's the later ones that really score. So it is a game that definitely gives you an incentive to medium or even long-term planning. But here's the trick. You can't plan much ahead because the tiles that are available change constantly. Also, because of that, you really pretty much had to wait for your turn to finalize your decision. You may, as the players play, you may get a sense of like that tile, but it may not be there. So you may have to change plans at the last minute. That doesn't really slow down the game much because the game is so simple, doesn't really cause analysis paralysis, but it does mean that you have this interesting dilemma. To score really well, you will need to be able to plan ahead, and you can. Now, maybe this will be irritating for some people, but actually, I like it because it means that everybody is always playing quote-unquote subpar, not as well as they would like to. Everybody's trying to pull off these crazy combos, and in most cases, you can. But it's cute to see people trying. That also means, however, from time to time, because of luck, somebody will pull off some crazy combo, and maybe that will generate or give the feeling that there is too much luck in the game. I don't find that to be the case. For a game this simple, this quick, that is not a problem to me. Scoring felt a little less intuitive than expected, but rescoring, again, although I don't know why they called it rescoring when it's different scoring, but it was fun. Also, I like how random, yes, and so not everybody will like this, the end of the game can be, because there may be a certain stack which looks really, really tall, and so it looks like, oh, I'm going to draw from that one because we're going to have a lot of time. And then a lot of those community scoring tiles come out that make the deck evaporate, and so all of a sudden you may be much closer to the end of the game than you expected, and again your beautiful long-term planning is going to be completely worthless. I like this little dilemma, a game where you need to do long-term planning and you can't. To me, that was an interesting challenge. I don't know, however, that that's going to be a universal crowd pleaser. The problem that we have had is with the production. This game is too pretty for its own good, with the art having so much variety that sometimes makes it hard at a glance to recognize if this is a building, which kind of building a certain building is. Basically, buildings are coded by color, but even that color, there's variety there, so it's more visually pleasing. But I just need a solid red, a solid purple, so I know which one is which. So they're barely coded by color, they're barely coded by shape, because again, different houses have different shapes. Very visually pleasing, but not as intuitive. As is, if you can get past the annoyance of how not completely readable the icons are, if you're not colorblind or color challenged, because otherwise simply there's no way you can recognize the colors and the functionality of the stores in the game. Well, you have to mark them with a marker, writing letters on them, and then was the prettiness in that. So if you can get past that element, which is frankly a weakness of the design, what you have here is a simple but nice and entertaining tableau building game with interesting choices, with the challenge of planning ahead when you really can't. And so you also have to deal with that element of luck that maybe is not for everybody, but I was fine with that. And this is my assessment of Bloomtown.